All right, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Team Building Podcast. My name is Matt Johnson. I've got our operations manager, Kevin McGowan, here and a special guest, and we're going to go super deep on the habits and systems of great COOs. And we've got an amazing guest here that has a lot of content to share and mastermind over. So we want you guys to be essentially let you in on a very high level mastermind type conversation with two top operations managers of some of the top teams around the country. Our guest also conducts classes for EAs and what she calls stealth COOs. And you'll get to learn kind of what that term is, including whether you are one or if you'd like to be one. And if you're a mega agent listening to this, how to find and retain the best ones that you can find. So first of all, let's welcome Kevin.
Hey, Matt. Yeah, super excited to be here today. I think we're going to have a really great guest. Thank you to Christy for being here in advance. Got a lot of great notes to compare.
Yeah, we do. So Christy Grossman, I just want you to kind of introduce yourself, let people know. I mean, obviously you're very, very plugged into the KW world, which we're also, kind of by proxy, not necessarily being part of the KW family, but a lot of people in that world know who you are. But if people aren't with that brokerage, they may be unaware that you're out there, you're teaching classes, you're speaking, you're traveling, in addition to your actual duties of running your own team and all that good stuff. So kind of give people an indication of what your daily life is like, where you're based at, and what your role is.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really psyched. I love meeting other stealth COOs. They're slowly popping up around the country.
That's right. We're taking over.
That's right. Watch out. So I'm in the Washington, D.C. area, about 15 miles west in Northern Virginia, and I'm with the Belt team. We're in the top 250 for KW. And I'm the COO, the Chief Operating Officer, which I guess we're going to be talking about today. My team did about 128 million over the past 2 years. My Rainmakers and Gary Keller's mastermind, and I run the operations side of the business. And then in my spare time, I love to teach, and so I'm teaching a class called 10 Secrets of a Mega EA, which is basically the difference between an average assistant and a mega assistant. We talk about mega agents and mega teams. Well, mega agents and mega teams need mega support. So that's really my passion.
Very cool. So what was your background before that? Like, what did you come into this position with a background in? Were you in, high level management? Like, what were you doing before you came to this?
Actually, that's a great question. I was sort of in expansion before expansion was part of the real estate business. I was in the mortgage business. So I ran 7 offices on the operations side for Chase Manhattan Mortgage in Virginia, DC, and Maryland.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, you definitely you came into it kind of equipped with knowledge from another industry that was then, very well applied into real estate.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. I thought I would actually know a lot about real estate coming from the mortgage business, but I realized there was a lot that I didn't know. So it was a great fun transition.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, let's start with just the basics real quick. And this episode that we do once a month, we focus really deep on the operations side. And so primarily the audience for this particular episode will be the people that are in operations. So let's start with the definition of kind of what is a stealth COO?
So I think over time, the COO term has sort of become more popular. And it's evolved from assistant to COO, but they're really two totally different things. And what I've determined after traveling around the country and teaching is there's a really high level EA and then there's a COO, and they're two totally different things. And in terms of DISC behavior and behavioral profiles, we typically talk about a high level EA as being an SC or a CS, the more stable, good with the client, detail oriented person. And what I know is as our teams are moving into expansion and we're just getting bigger, our teams are getting bigger, we need a higher level leader on the operations side. And that's what I kind of call the stealth COO. And so, for example, I'm a 99% D. It's just a totally different, more of a driver, more of a combination of an empire builder maybe and an empire protector, as opposed to just an empire protector.
I like that. Yeah. And I'm sure that definitely comes out in the DE side of your personality in terms of the builder. I'm the same way. In fact, Matt and I were just having the conversation the other day about how my D has changed probably over the last 6 years since I've been in my current position, and how that's only been increasing over the years, kind of being more in that COO position. So I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah. It's kind of more of an, I call it being an entrepreneur. We don't take on the risk We don't own the company.
Mm-hmm.
We sleep a little bit better at night, although I can't say I sleep great because I'm always got ideas going on. But we treat it like it's our business. We own the business in our minds and in our actions.
Absolutely. Yeah. Always thinking about the day-to-day in our minds and making sure everything's running smoothly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, that risk component, because that is a really big key. Because Christy, I mean, you're probably a little bit different than maybe a lot of executive, whether you call them assistants or operations managers, COOs, whatever the case may be. Anybody that's on the operations side would typically tend to have a little bit lower D than the person that they're working for or working with, the rainmaker. But so the question is, well, why, do you hire someone that is like a 99D, but then the risk is, okay, well, if I teach them everything and they run my business, what happens when they leave and they start their own thing? But you were,
well, actually, I think the risk is less about them leaving. The risk is more, can you grow fast enough to keep them occupied? I think what happens is a lot of mega agents want to hire they like hiring people like them, which is not always the best thing for them. But if they're going to grow big and they're going to grow, into 20 expansion teams, you need to hire somebody probably who's a high D. If you were going to be a single agent or maybe, 4 agents or something, you definitely need the stable, steady, consistent person who's going to put your systems together and just keep everything going smoothly.
Yeah.
So not to go off on like an hour-long tangent on compensation, but given that, I mean, do you feel like then compensation should be structured more of an incentive base, since Ds typically like to continue to build and have something to work towards? Like, do you feel like if they were more of a salaried position that would kind of level off, and so would their work, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I'm seeing a variety of options around the company, and the most common model would be a salary plus either bonus based on productivity or my team bonuses based on profitability. To me, that's the ideal, because you want to be as profitable as possible.
Kind of like a profit sharing type of program.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the salary is still important, because even though we may be a high D, if we're in the operations role, we're a little bit, we still like that steady income as well. So it's like a combination.
Yeah, because there's still going to be an SC in you somewhere in there that likes that consistency as well. So
yeah, either that or you're going to hire one. I hired one.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So let's talk about the risk you mentioned is more. It's not so much the risk of them leaving, but get back to the kind of the risk tolerance of the person, right? So if you're in the position of like a mega agent that's looking for that right person, and you find somebody you think is the right person, and you're looking to grow, you've got a couple things to watch out for, which is their own risk tolerance. If they have a high risk tolerance, you are kind of at risk for them leaving, especially if you can't grow fast enough, like you mentioned. But if they tend to have a lower risk tolerance, it's the flip side of that is they may not be driving enough for you to grow, but there's less chance of them leaving. So you have to kind of balance out, it sounds like, when you do your assessments and stuff like that, and you're going through the interview process, you're looking for those indicators in the past of how much risk are they really willing to take in relation to, what the opportunity is, and trying to gauge out, okay, does this opportunity that I'm giving them match what they're really looking for and their risk tolerance?
Yeah, and I think where it starts back with oftentimes is the mega agent has to get really clear on what their vision is and where they're going. I think a lot of people hire, and they don't hire with the end in mind. They hire with today, what I'm doing today and who do I need today, versus where am I going? Am I going to stay where I am today? And that's fine. That's we all make different choices for different reasons. Then this is who I need to hire. But if I'm going somewhere else tomorrow and 5 years from now, who I hire today, it matters. You need to know that. Mm-hmm. So in terms of risk averse and not risk averse, I think, if you're a stable team that is not in growth mode, you definitely will have somebody who's very risk averse, who just wants to maintain and protect the empire and keep the systems the same. If you're going somewhere big, you still don't want someone who's completely who loves risk. Mm-hmm. Because on the operations side, we're here to build the core foundation. But you probably have a little bit more of a hybrid personality. Yeah. So somebody who's going to take some risks but they're going to be calculated risks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great explanation of that. Because if you're in high growth mode and you're looking to build, you can't just have, who is it? Chris Lockhead, the guy that wrote Play Bigger. He would call them harvester. This is why he always criticized Steve Ballmer at Microsoft, for example. So you've got the guys that are the intellectual frontier builder guys, and then you put a CEO in there who's essentially a harvester, and they just harvest all the growth from the past that somebody else was responsible for, and the whole company just kind of goes on a slow downward slide, and then all of a sudden everybody wakes up and realizes, hey, we haven't done anything innovative in 15 years. Like we got to get rid of this guy and get everybody else. So essentially, the board of Microsoft made a terrible decision in the sense that they put someone that was an empire protector into a position that requires you to be an empire builder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great point.
So let's get into the habits a little bit with us. So what do you consider some of the essential habits of a good COO or a mega EA?
I think mindset has to be the first one. How do you start your day? What do you do? The job that we both have is not an easy job. It's an awesomely fun job, but you come and you have to solve problems constantly all day, and you have to be thinking big all day. So mindset and how you start your day is key for me. I think an average assistant maybe rolls out of bed and takes care of their kids, or gets their life together and shows up at the office and then plugs in. For me, my day starts like the second I wake up. That's a big thing for me.
Yeah, there was a great book that was recommended to me lately. I don't know if either of you guys have read it. Have you heard of Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill? It was the book that was just recently released in the last couple of years that he wrote, like right after Think and Grow Rich.
No, I love the title.
Yes, it's insane. It's insanely good. But he talks about in this kind of mock kind of conversation interview with the devil points out that the difference between most people is either you're a drifter or you're not. And the non-drifters are those who are intentional. They have a definite purpose, not just for their life, but they actually set a definite purpose for their week and their day. And that's something I've really been working on, is what's the mission for the day? Not just what are my to-dos, not just what's my schedule, but what is the mission? What's the thing that I need to get done today? And it goes back to Gary Keller's one thing. It's a very similar concept, which is, what's the one thing that I need to do today that I would, that makes everything else easier or unnecessary? But most importantly, like, you got to ask yourself, what's the one thing that if I didn't get it done today, that's what I would point out and say, I failed today because I didn't get that one thing done.
Yeah, that's like having a must-do list instead of a to-do list.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because the to-do list, I mean, especially for operations people, the insane, I mean, Kevin, the amount of detail that you guys deal with and the complexity on a daily basis is insane.
It really is, which just, I've been kind of thinking of maybe a point of conversation, which is my current struggle. And I want to ask Christy if you have ever experienced the same thing, or if not, how you get around this. But in my experience, my passion is the driver, the doer, the builder, right? And so the first few years of starting our team, I was off and running and just super excited and totally jazzed about it. And then as things kind of got to, we were very fortunate in where we got to, but that means that we kind of leveled off a little bit and then went into maintenance mode. Unfortunately, my position followed suit in that, like, just for example, and just being completely transparent, last year we really weren't building very much. We were just it's almost like we took a year off of the doing and the driving, and we just went on maintenance mode for a little bit. And that ended up being a very, what I consider kind of a boring year for me, to be completely honest. It was maintenance mode. I just was doing to-do lists every day, all day long. Just, okay, this is something new. Like, onboarding another agent. Okay, just onboarded 5 agents, in the last couple, it's just like a cycle of keep going over and over. How do you break that cycle and get yourself to be not, if you're kind of falling into that position, how do you climb out of it, so to speak?
Well, that's a really great question, and you totally just illustrated what I was talking about with the challenge that mega agents have when they want to hire this type of profile of a COO, and then they aren't going as fast as you want to go or where you want to go.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm here, I can totally relate to that, what you're saying. And it's part of the reason why I'm teaching around the country and consulting, because I think one of the characteristics of that stealth COO is they're just yearning for personal growth all the time. The personal growth drives the business and it drives them. And if you're not getting that personal growth out of the business, you're going to look for it somewhere else. And I think that's where mega agents have to be really intentional about making sure that they're providing opportunity for all of their operations people who are kind of in this growth mode. I mean, what I'm hearing from you is you're ready to move faster maybe than the owner of your team is ready to move at the current time.
Yeah, well, I mean, like we were going a million miles an hour the first few years, right? You know, I mean, just kind of have to, and work.
Chaos mode.
Yeah, exactly. And now the dust has settled, and I think most people would be like, this is great. I'm just going to sit back, keep all these plates spinning, and just keep business running like a well-oiled machine like usual. And I'm just kind of in that position. Once again, I guess when you consider more of a COO and what that truly means, I kind of want to keep growing, but not just, continually not growing the same things that I'm doing over and over. You know what I'm saying?
One of the things I talk to the people that come to my class about that is the difference for me in terms of being an average assistant versus a mega assistant is that you are actually generating 3 times your salary in GCI to the team. So I would, that's one thing if you're not already doing that you could be actually pretty fascinating. And you do that through systems. Like we're systems people on the operations side. So what kind of systems do you not have in effect that you could be putting in effect that would actually just blow up the income of your team?
Yeah, there's still, I guess what you're saying, Christy, is there's still problems to be solved. And you have to, they may not be as obvious as they were in chaos mode because everything was, let's freaking figure out how to generate sales and let's figure out how to generate leads. Then you figure that out and it's like, all right, well, let's get agents in here. Like, okay, well, now we got a bunch of agents. Now let's figure out how to train them. Like everything is very obvious because you're in constant failure mode. Like everything you do all of a sudden it breaks something, like it breaks your system and you're like, oh crap, now I got to fix that. So you put your hand over one leak and then another leak springs somewhere else.
I think you have to kind of transition from firefighter mode to prognosticator mode. So you're like in this place where all you're doing is putting out fires because your team is just in chaos and like your systems are just not capable of handling it as you're in that growth mode. And then you kind of get settled in. And I think the next thing that comes onto your plate is, okay, this is great where we are now, but what's coming next? Our industry is changing so fast. Like we just, our team just watched a great video of, I can't think of the name of it. House Canary, a new product that's coming out. That's going to be able to predict values 2 to 3 years in the future, house by house. It was fascinating. It's a big data product. And so, I would say you have to transition to how can I position my team for continued success in the future with what's coming versus where we are now.
Yeah, that's what, Kevin, you and I have talked about this just kind of in the context of elite real estate systems and what that is. Like I would like to see us do a little bit more experimentation, not just with the home team and with this kind of pool of people that we have that are under the flat rate expansion program, because we have these teams around the country that we could be experimenting, with lead gen, with systems. Like there's things that we can do like outside the core business or around the edges of the core business. But I think would probably give you that outlet for the building mode. But yeah, I think, Christy, you're right. You kind of have to start, you have to look for the problems.
Opportunity.
And the opportunities for improvement rather than just, because you get out of firefighting mode. But Christy, you briefly mentioned just the class that you teach. I want you to tell people kind of where they can go to learn more and connect with you. And then we'll finish out with a couple more questions.
Awesome. So they can go to my website, which is 10secretsofamagaea.com. I'm teaching all over the States, plus Toronto and Vancouver. I only teach 10 times a year, and the tickets usually sell out pretty fast because of that, because I actually have this real job of running my team. So they can get all the info there.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. So we talked about habits. We talked about, your mindset, your morning rituals, and just having those rituals and kind of getting into, that mindset of having an intention and having a one thing for that day. But let's talk about systems a little bit. What are some of the more recent systems that you've worked on installing into your own team, and kind of give us an insight into that process of how you build and install a new system on a real deal team?
We've actually haven't installed a lot of new systems lately. The systems that we've had are just so fine-tuned that we kind of run really smoothly. The most recent system, and you're going to laugh when I say this, that we've installed is actually adding a dialer. My agents are really seized. I know, can you believe that?
Now we're talking about like an integrated dialer.
Like a triple dialer. Like Mojo. Yeah.
Mojo into Boomtown, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I've got very seasoned agents. So the challenge is not actually getting the system up and going. It's getting the people to use the systems, teaching old dogs new tricks.
Are you getting pushback in terms of, they feel like they don't need to use a dialer because they've got, a good sphere base going already and a bunch of referrals and things like that? Or, I mean, in what mindset are they having to use that dialer? Is it for new prospecting, or is it for just keeping up with current leads? Or how is it that you guys plan on using
We're
it?
actually using it for both. So we're hooking it up with Boomtown. So we've got literally, our problem is not leads. We have so many leads. We don't have enough people following up. It's always one or the other, right? Either you don't have leads or you don't have people following up. So I think it's just a mindset of overcoming the mindset of short-term and long-term gain. An agent's always looking for the immediate gain, and doing Mojo dialing is not always the immediate gain. So we're in the early stages of investing the time and praying for the reward.
Right. Yeah.
What's the foundation of your guys' business? I mean, you said you've got seasoned agents. Is it their sphere? Is it buyer lead generation? Is it seller lead generation?
It's different for each agent. I have one agent that does $20 million a year after year. He's been with us for 8 years, and he's like my steady Eddie. And he does open houses every weekend. I mean, it's not sexy, but it works. He's just got it down. We had a client event last week, and I can't tell you how many clients came up to me, and they're just like, I met Kevin at an open house, and he was the only agent that actually listened to me and really wanted to know what we were looking for. So it's simple, it's not rocket science. They're all different. We've been in the business. This is our 50th year in the business. My team. I know. Wow. We're not on video, but I just saw some eyebrows go up.
You can hear them go up through the microphone.
Yeah.
Now, I was gonna say, how did that come about? Briefly, before we wrap things up, what do you mean you have this is the 50th year?
So my mom was a single agent back in the day of super top producer, single agent before teams, and my brother and I joined her about 21 years ago. And kind of like when I joined the team, it was like, well, we'll try this for a year and see how it works. And if it doesn't work, you can bail out, no hard feelings. Well, that was 21 years ago, so it worked. And then about 10 or 15 years ago, my brother bought the business from her, and he's now the CEO of the company. Yeah.
Gotcha. Very cool. Very, very cool. All right. So what's the next frontier for you? You're out there teaching and speaking and running the team. I mean, you're a 99D. What's the next big project on the horizon for you?
I'm actually starting to take on some consulting clients. I'm doing some one-on-one consulting with EAs. That kind of came out of my classes with some people approaching me, begging me to do it, and I hadn't. I held off for a long time because I don't like to do anything unless I can do a great job at it, and I want to make sure I was adding value. So we trialed that out, and that's going really well. After that, I think I'll be doing some consulting with mega teams where they'll fly me in. I'm going to do a 2-day consult. First day I'll meet with the mega agent and the mega EA, and maybe if they have lead listing specialists, lead buyer specialists, whoever the leaders are in the company, and then do an assessment, assess their accountability, their communication, their time management, their systems, all the operation stuff, not the sales stuff, and then come back the next day and present to them what my findings are and what my recommendations are. So awesome. I think after doing this for so long, that sounds fun to me. Has to be fun for me to do it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, Christy, we really appreciate it. Just remind people where you're at physically so that they can send referrals your way if they have anything in your area.
Awesome. We're in Northern Virginia, right outside of DC. If you just remember Washington, DC, we can refer you if it's in DC or Maryland. And our website is thebeltteam.com, THEBELTTEAM.com.
Cool. And then the website again for the Mega EA class?
It's 10secretsofamagaea.com.
Perfect. And then for us, just a quick word, so you can get a hold of us at eliterealestatesystems.com. We've got information on expansion there, as well as our team building workshops. We've got a couple of those upcoming. We're running some special ones this summer. So I apologize if you're listening to this after the summer of 2017. Just be sure to check the website, because we are running future web workshops about once a month. Sometimes we'll do them in conjunction with special events like the World Series or the Berkshire Hathaway shareholders event. But in case you missed those, continue to check back with us, because we're conducting those all the time. Those are hosted at our home office in Omaha. And speaking of like EAs and admin and operations staff, we do have an additional add-on. So if you want to bring an operations person with you into the workshop, we have a separate track for them to connect with you, Kevin, and the admin staff there, and really get an insight into how you guys run the flagship office there in Omaha.
Yeah, exactly. While if you have a team leader there, team leader spends time with our team leader. But between myself and Andy Cuny, our success manager, depending on what your role is, we pretty much have all the bases covered, from systems to accountability, profitability, so on and so forth. And you get to spend all day with us and just kind of sit down and see the inner workings of our operations. So.
Yeah, that's right. Well, cool. Christy, just want to thank you again. We'll kind of put a nice little bow on this particular episode. Thank you, everybody, for listening and or watching, depending on whether we're seeing this on iTunes or Stitcher or YouTube. Either way, you can subscribe and get the video or audio versions of our show. And until next time, thanks so much.